Somewhere between finger painting and filing taxes, we lose something. Remember when you used to wake up excited just because it was Saturday and you could build a fort out of pillows? Then life happened. Bills, deadlines, meetings that could have been emails. But that curious, fearless, wildly imaginative kid inside you, they're still there, probably just buried under a pile of adult responsibilities. Today, I want to talk about finding that kid again and why the best thing you can do for your dreams, your happiness, and your sanity is to never outgrow them. You know, kids are naturally wired to be curious. They don't need a reason to ask questions, they just do. Spend 5 minutes with a 5-year-old and you'll realize that why is their favorite word in the English language. Why is the sky blue? Why do dogs bark? Why can't I eat ice cream for breakfast? It's relentless and kind of beautiful. Because behind every why is this innocent belief that the world still has secrets worth discovering. Then we grow up and something strange happens. We start trading our whys for whatever. We stop being curious and start being comfortable. We get good at routine, at being efficient, at doing things the right way. Somewhere along the line, curiosity starts to feel inconvenient. Because curiosity slows you down. It makes you look foolish. It means admitting that you don't know something. And most adults hate that feeling. But here's the problem. When you stop being curious, you stop growing. You start living on autopilot. You become a collector of habits instead of a seeker of possibilities. When we were kids, not knowing something was exciting. It meant there was an adventure waiting. As adults, not knowing something often feels like failure. We've got it backwards. I remember once watching a little boy take apart a toy robot. He had no idea how to put it back together, but that didn't stop him. He wanted to see what was inside, what made it tick. His mom, horrified, told him to stop before he broke it. But he just looked up and said, "It's already broken if I can't learn from it." That's the kind of mindset we lose over time. We stop asking what's inside and start saying, "Don't touch that." Curiosity is uncomfortable, but that's where the magic lies. Every invention, every breakthrough, every meaningful change in history started with someone asking a question that sounded a little naive. What if we could fly? What if we could talk to someone miles away? What if I tried this just because it sounds fun? Those are childlike questions that adults with courage dared to answer. So if you ever catch yourself getting too comfortable, too certain, too grown up, here's a little test. Ask yourself something that doesn't have an easy answer, something weird. Something that makes you think, "I should probably know this by now." Then chase the answer like a kid chasing a firefly. It's not about getting it right, it's about staying awake to the wonder of being alive. Curiosity doesn't fade because of age. It fades because of fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of looking silly. Fear of wasting time. But every time you fight that fear and ask the next question anyway, you let that inner kid out to play again. And trust me, that kid knows a lot more about living than the adult version of you ever will. When we're kids, play is our full-time job. We build castles out of cardboard boxes, turn the backyard into another planet, and believe a towel can make us fly. Nobody has to teach us to play. It's instinct. But somewhere along the way, we start calling play a waste of time. We trade in our crayons for calendars, our imagination for inboxes, and we start believing that being serious means being successful. I don't know who started that rumor, but it's one of the worst lies adulthood ever sold us. The truth is, play is not the opposite of work. It's the fuel for it. Every time you play, you're practicing creativity, collaboration, problem solving, and joy, all the skills that make you good at anything. When you watch kids building a sandcastle, you're watching engineers, designers, and architects in their purest form. They experiment, they argue, they fail, they rebuild. And they do it all while laughing. When the waves wash it away, they don't cry over lost blueprints. They just say, "Let's build another one." That's innovation in its rawest form. As adults, we forget that kind of freedom. We start thinking in terms of rules, deadlines, and outcomes. We play only when it's appropriate, on weekends, on vacation, when it doesn't interfere with real life. But that's like telling your heart it can only beat on Thursdays. Play isn't something you schedule, it's something you live. It's a mindset a willingness to explore without guarantee, to take something ordinary and twist it into something new just because it's fun. Some of the most brilliant breakthroughs in history happened because someone was playing. The Wright brothers weren't doing corporate R&D. They were playing with gliders. Steve Wozniak was playing with circuits in his garage. Artists, inventors, scientists, they all share this one thing: they never stop tinkering, doodling, and daydreaming. Play opens doors that logic alone can't see. I remember once working on a project that had hit a wall. Everyone in the room was exhausted, serious, and overthinking. Finally, one of my students brought in a toy, a tiny bouncing ball, and started tossing it around while we brainstormed. Something shifted. People started smiling. Ideas started flowing again. That little moment of silliness gave us permission to relax, to stop trying to be right and start trying to be creative. Within an hour, we had solved the problem, not because we worked harder, but because we played smarter. When we were kids, we didn't need permission to play. We just did it. As adults, we wait for permission that never comes. So give it to yourself. Let yourself experiment, laugh, and be wrong. Approach your work, your relationships, your life with the same sense of play you had when you were 6. Because play isn't childish. It's how children learn to become human and how adults remember what being human feels like. If you ever feel stuck, burned out, or uninspired, don't push harder. Play harder. Build something silly. Tell a bad joke. Doodle. Dance. Make a mess. Because in that moment of unfiltered joy, you're not escaping life, you're finally participating in it. When you're a kid, failure isn't a tragedy, it's Tuesday. You fall off your bike, you scrape your knee, you cry for 2 minutes, and then you get back on because you still want to ride. There's no committee meeting, no existential crisis, no PowerPoint presentation about lessons learned. You just try again, and again, and again. That's what fearless failure looks like. And somewhere along the road to adulthood, we forget how to do it. As grown-ups, we start treating failure like it's fatal. We build entire defense systems around avoiding it. We overthink, overprepare, overanalyze, all to make sure we never look foolish, never take a hit, never have to admit, I was wrong. But here's the secret: if you've never failed, you've probably never tried anything worth doing. Every person who's ever achieved something remarkable has a trail of mistakes behind them. And the only difference between them and everyone else is that they didn't let those mistakes become stop signs. When I was teaching, I used to tell my students that if they were succeeding at everything, they weren't aiming high enough. Failure means you're in motion. It means you're stretching yourself past what you already know. The only real failure is standing still because you're scared. Kids don't stand still. They're too busy running, climbing building, and falling to worry about what people think. They're wired to learn by doing, and that's a skill worth relearning. Think about how children play. They build a tower out of blocks, it topples over, and they laugh. Then they build it again, but taller this time, because now they know what made it fall. They don't quit because of gravity, they adapt. That's what fearless failure teaches us. Not how to avoid falling, but how to fall better each time. Adults could learn a lot from that kind of resilience. Somewhere along the way, we made a cultural mistake. We started confusing perfection with excellence. Perfection says, don't mess up. Excellence says, learn fast. The best people I've ever met in any field, engineers, artists, teachers, parents, all share the same superpower. They fail publicly, they learn quickly, and they move forward anyway. They understand that scars are proof you showed up for the game. So here's the challenge. Fail on purpose once in a while. Try something that scares you a little. Take a class in something you're bad at. Ask a question you think might sound dumb. You'll be amazed at how much lighter life feels when you stop letting fear of failure call the shots. Kids fall 100 times before they take their first step, and no one calls them quitters. But adults stumble once and decide walking isn't for them. That's backward. Falling doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're alive and still trying. The trick isn't to avoid failure, it's to fall with purpose, get up with laughter, and remember that the bruise fades long before the lesson does. Imagination is one of those muscles we're all born with, but most people let it atrophy. When you're a kid, it's the strongest thing you've got. You can turn a stick into a sword, a blanket into a spaceship, and a cardboard box into a time machine. Nobody has to explain how. You just see it. The world isn't limited to what it looks like, it's what it could be. And that's a powerful way to live. But somewhere along the way, we start trading imagination for instruction. We stop asking, what if? And start asking, what's realistic? The crayons get replaced by calculators and dreaming turns into day planning. Don't get me wrong, organization has its place. But when you let the practical completely replace the possible, you stop creating and start maintaining. And maintenance is not the same as living. The imagination we had as kids isn't gone. It's just buried under a pile of shoulds and musts. And that's not how it works. It's still in there, waiting for permission to come out. The tragedy is that we think imagination belongs to children, when in fact, it's what adults need most. Because every major innovation, every act of progress, every beautiful work of art, all of it started as a daydream. Somebody, somewhere, allowed their mind to wander beyond the obvious and asked, what if? When I worked with creative teams, I loved watching the moments when imagination took over. You'd see someone's eyes light up, and suddenly the room would feel electric. It's that moment when possibility outweighs practicality, and everyone starts building off each other's crazy ideas. That's when real creativity happens, not when you're playing it safe, but when you're daring to be a little ridiculous. The best part? Imagination is renewable. It doesn't run out. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. It's just like a muscle. If you don't stretch it, it gets stiff. If you exercise it, it surprises you with what it can do. You can train yourself to see possibilities again. Watch a movie without multitasking. Sit under a tree and let your brain wander. Ask yourself, if I were 10 years old, what would I do right now? That question alone can open doors that logic locked shut. Kids use imagination to explore the world. Adults can use it to redefine it. Think of every challenge you face, at work, at home, in life, as an invitation to imagine a better version of it. When you picture things not just as they are, but as they could be, you stop reacting to life and start designing it. We tend to think imagination is about pretending, but really it's about believing. Believing there's more to see, more to learn, more to create. The world doesn't need fewer dreamers. It needs grown-ups who remember how to dream responsibly, courageously, and unapologetically. So dust off that imagination muscle. Give it a stretch. Because when you let yourself imagine again, you don't just make life more interesting, you make it limitless. Joy is one of those things we treat like a childhood privilege instead of a lifelong right. When you're a kid, joy is effortless. You don't need a reason to laugh. You just do. You see bubbles, puppies, or a puddle, and you're all in. But as adults, we start acting like joy has to be earned. We say, I'll be happy when I get the promotion. Or, I'll relax after this project. Or, I'll smile once things calm down. Spoiler alert, they never really calm down. The finish line keeps moving and joy keeps getting postponed. Somewhere along the way, we got this idea that growing up means getting serious, and getting serious means putting joy on the shelf. We confuse being busy with being fulfilled. We treat happiness like a luxury instead of oxygen. But kids have it figured out. They don't wait for joy, they create it. They find wonder in ordinary moments because they're fully present for them. They're not thinking about yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's to-do list. They're just there, splashing in the puddle. I remember watching my kids one afternoon when they were building something out of cardboard boxes, probably a spaceship or a time machine. It was hard to tell. They were laughing, arguing, taping pieces together, and having the time of their lives. I asked them what they were building, and one of them said, "We don't know yet!" That answer made me laugh, but it also made me realize something. Joy doesn't always come from knowing where you're going. Sometimes it comes from enjoying where you are. We adults tend to underestimate how powerful that mindset is. We get so focused on goals, results, and outcomes that we forget to look up and enjoy the view along the way. But joy isn't the reward for a job well done. It's the fuel that makes the work worth doing. When you approach your life with a sense of play and gratitude, you bring out the best in yourself and everyone around you. People don't follow perfection, they follow energy, and joy is the most contagious form of energy there is. Now, I'm not saying every day has to be sunshine and confetti. Life is hard sometimes. Heartbreak, loss, disappointment, failure, they're all part of the package. But joy isn't about denying pain, it's about choosing perspective. You can acknowledge the tough stuff and still find a reason to smile. you can still be grateful for the small moments. A good cup of coffee, a kind word, a shared laugh, even when things aren't perfect. That's not naive, that's brave. There's a saying I love: you don't stop playing because you grow old because you stop playing. And I think that's true about joy too. The world doesn't need more serious people, it needs more joyful ones. People who laugh easily, forgive quickly, and see beauty even in the cracks. Because when you live with joy, you remind everyone else that life, no matter how complicated it gets, is still worth celebrating. So as you walk out of here today, I want you to remember something simple but powerful. The kid you used to be is still cheering for you. They're in there. The curious, fearless, imaginative, joyful little version of you who believed the world was full of magic and possibilities. They haven't given up on you, so don't give up on them. Keep asking, why? Keep playing, even when life tells you to be serious. Fall down, laugh about it, and get back up. Dream with both eyes open. Find joy in the smallest, silliest, most ordinary moments, because that's where the real magic hides. And when life gets hard, when the world feels heavy, and you start to forget who you are, just pause and ask, what would my inner kid do? Then go do exactly that, because that kid always knew how to live. Good luck out there, and may you never, ever outgrow the best parts of yourself.